Hey, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are on this beautiful rotating ball of a planet, blue ball of a planet. And thank you for following, liking, subscribing. Follow me on Twitter at BFES56. Got the voter ID war room filling up. Got the term limits Tiger's Den warming up. Beautiful people in there, like-minded like myself, and you, if you're watching this. I got to be thinking here, and you've heard the term, be careful what you wish for, right? And I've been doing, like I always say, do your own research. So one time when we were at, I guess, a flea market or whatever, maybe about a year ago, we found a book on Lincoln, and we found like a 1940s book on the presidency. And I'm going to have to tell you, this is probably before, it's the 1940s. Before cancel culture, at least, right? Before, social media. So a lot of the history that's in this book is fascinating. And yeah, you'll puke if you're hating history. But if you like history, go to your flea markets and try to find the older books. But anyway, back to the be careful what you wish for. And I'd like you guys to put down in your comments if you could, which also helps me for more fodder for the next day or the next. But be careful what you wish for. Like, let's take term limits, right? Now, we all know already, one of the greatest things our forefathers did was made sure that we couldn't have a monarchy, let's say, with the presidency numero uno, right? So they had people prior to and I could try to rattle off names, but I don't want to get them wrong. Maybe in a year I'll be rattling off names because I'm more studied. But prior to like the 13 colonies getting together and deciding to form states and all, there were a lot of people that were really, really happy with how the states were getting together. But even though they were under the kingdom or the monarchy, there was still sort of a sense of freedom, especially with the big canal, from England to United States in the way. Kind of felt like, well, at least we're like kind of out in the boondocks here on our own and enjoying probably different freedoms, I would say. I know that they had their, law over here, and they were watching what everybody was doing with their taxes. But for the most part, the 13 colonies, they were adventuring. They were sort of like getting out into the Wild West and seeing what they could make of it. And fortunately, the king at first said, hey, have at it. Let's go conquer that land, and you guys get this, and this to do it. We'll put you to work. You can have land, all that stuff. So, but right before, around, I guess, the 1776, 1786 area, there was a lot of people that were questioning whether this was just a way to make sure it wasn't a monarchy with an army and a lot of rule and law over top of you. They were still, even though the Constitution had come out and all, they were still a little weary. And you got to remember, back then, they didn't even have telephones, okay? So people still had a lot of stuff up in their head. And a lot of their family was saying stuff up in their head. Family to family to family, teaching it. But it just struck me odd that be careful what you wish for, because with the term limits, which I am all for, so don't get me wrong, it would be a really big win to make sure that in the state of New Jersey, let's say, once you do your 2 terms, you're done. Whether it's 2, 4, 6, whatever. But once you do your 2 terms, you're done. Now, if you want to go over to New York and move there and try to run there, I probably don't see a problem with that. But as far as state to state, I do think it's a really, really good idea to make sure that there's term limits that, going back to 1788, we made sure that the president couldn't stay in there for life and then hand it down to his own family, right? Or her family. Back then, I'm pretty sure they weren't expecting a woman to be president, but to make sure we're PC, I'm going to make sure I get that right. So anywho, I was just thinking that along with term limits, we should have riders in there too with the staff, because I need help with this. If you guys want to leave comments in there too of what you think with staffing, because what I'm finding out is, even though we boot the president out after a while, or after 2 terms at maximum, or they don't win the second election, a lot of the staff remains. So how do we know inside there that the staff isn't doing stuff wonky from president to president to president? So I'm just thinking out loud. I just wanted to make sure you guys could help me here. I also believe in participative management, so that's why I like to have you guys in there, making sure you can bring up some good ideas, or whatever you think I'm saying that's wrong, tell me why I'm wrong. If it's a bad idea, tell me why it's bad. But if you agree with me, definitely share me. Like, subscribe, share. And YouTube's about ready to start up, and that'll be my next level of either lives or doing videos and whatnot. But I'm really fascinated with that question. Do we leave term limits alone? Or if we get term limits, do we have to kind of do a deep dive into what happens, what's the history of staffing? So maybe that would be sort of like the name of this, term limits. Be careful what you ask for, because the staff could still remain. All right, guys, thank you for that. I'm off to therapy. I love you guys. Kiss, love, hug a veteran, and make sure you also take care of one another. All right, man.